Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So now you remember that we were discussing impulse generator circuit where this is what we have studied, that there will be a switch condenser CS, then this CS will be charged from a high voltage DC source. For that there will be a charging resistor. Then, then there will be somebody is making a lot of noise. See, some student is making very much noise through their mic. So who is it? Because either TV or something is working or what? Showdeep Sen, you mute yourself. Okay, so now then you have a fast acting switch, and I explained that this should be a sphere gap. Then there will be two resistances, one in series, one in parallel. The parallel one is called discharge resistor, the series one is called damping resistor, and one capacitor called the load condenser or load capacitor CB. Now I was telling that if my output voltage is say 800 kV or 1000 kV, then we cannot have a single capacitor because it is just not possible to make it. So we need a multi-stage circuit. So I will show you this is exactly what the multi-stage circuit is. So we start with this CS. Here you can see CS, but there are not one CS, but there are four CS here. CS1, CS2, CS3, CS4. You can see here parallel, they are all parallel. On the left side of CS1, you can see at the bottom it is written as DC generating section. And if you look at this DC generating section, this is a very typical Cockcroft-Walton voltage doubler circuit. So in Cockcroft-Walton voltage doubler circuit, we have exactly this, that a low voltage variable source, high voltage transformer, then we have first one capacitor here, then two diodes, and then a second capacitor. But here the second capacitors are actually the CS1 and other CS in parallel. These are the second group of capacitors. That's why this left side, this DC generating section is nothing but a Cockcroft-Walton voltage doubler circuit. In the middle, where you have these multiple stage capacitors with some resistances, these are, this section is called voltage multiplying section. And in the end on the right side, this is very typical of that single stage circuit. That means there is one capacitor in series with the load condenser, one capacitor in parallel, so that is the discharge resistor in the right bottom, and RD2 right bottom is the damping resistor. So this is the circuit. Now let me explain how it works. First is charging circuit. I am not going because that's typical Cockcroft-Walton voltage of the circuit. And you can see the point A, C, E, and G. They are all connected to the doubler circuit through a charging resistor RCH. So all the four capacitors are charged in parallel so that they will be charged at the same voltage. So let's say the voltage across all of them is say V. So they are charged up to a certain voltage V. Then there are certain sphere gaps which are connected like A to B. This sphere gap has some series resistance. Similarly, S2, S3 and S4. Now, when these capacitors are being charged, at that point, this sphere gap should not fire. How do I ensure it? We have to put enough gap distance between the two spheres so that the sphere gaps do not fire. But at the same time, we have to also ensure that when it fires, it should fire sequentially. That means S1 first, followed by S2, S3, and S4. Now, as long as S4 does not fire, the voltage at the point G is never connected to the output circuit. Now, how does it all happen? So, consider that all the four capacitors are charged up to a voltage V, and these gaps S1, S2, S3, S4, we have to trigger them sequentially. So what we do is we keep the gap distance. If we say D1 for S1, then D2 for S2, D3 for S3, and D4 for S4. These are the gap distance. We will set them accordingly that D1 is slightly less than D2, D2 is slightly less than D3, D3 is slightly less than D4, which means D1 will be the lowest value of the gap distance, D4 will be the highest value of the gap distance. And they should be such that D1, the lowest value, should not break down at the charging voltage of the capacitor. If it is V, then it should not break down at V. But now what happens? Let's say now all the capacitors are charged up to a voltage V. At this condition, we have to fire this super generator, and we have to fire it in such a way that their voltages should be added. That means these capacitors must be connected in series. Now what happens? By some means, which I will explain, this is called triggering of the generator. This first S1 gap is fired. Then what happens? The point A is immediately connected to point B. Now point A, let's say, is the positive terminal of CS1. Then point B is definitely negative terminal of CS2. So if A is connected to B, then CS1 and CS2 are connected in series. What happens now? The total voltage across S2 immediately becomes 2V. It is no longer V. Earlier, the voltage across S2 was V. Why? Because all the capacitors are charged up to V. So A, C, E, they are all at V potential, and B, D, etc. are all at R potential. So these sphere gaps were having a voltage difference of V. But now, the moment S1 breaks down, the point A is immediately connected to B, and then CS1 and CS2 immediately are in series. So the voltage across S2 becomes 2V, and then it will automatically fire because of the very high voltage. Then the voltage across S3 will become 3V. It will fire. Voltage across S4 will become 4V. It will fire. So our job is that initially keep the distances, the gap distances in a increasing order from S1 to S4, and the gap distance D1 for S1 must be such that it should not break down at the charging voltage of CS1, and at the required voltage, we will trigger the gap of S1 by some means, so that now there will be a cascading effect of voltage, and at the point H we will get 4V. So that now when the charging of CB takes place, it will not be at V, but it will be with respect to 4V. So therefore at the output, we will not get 4V because of the charging of CB. We will lose some amount of voltage. So it will be slightly less than 4V. And when this happens, think carefully that this RD1 in series with S1, RD1 in series with S2. When these capacitors are connected in series, all these resistances are also connected in series with the CS, which means that they will be connected in series with CS and CB. Or in other words, they are damping resistors of the single stage circuit. Similarly, if you see that RE here in the right bottom is in parallel with CB. But look at that, this terminal RE2, this common terminal here, then through H, F, etc., this goes to R. So that there are certain RE1 here which will come in series, and then that series combination will come in parallel with RE2. Look at the circuit, RE2, this is the common terminal here. Then from here, this RE1, they are in series and then they goes to R. So 4 RE1 and RE2 are in parallel. So these are called, this RE1 are called discharge resistor. But since they are distributed in nature, so RT1, they are called distributed damping resistor. Then RE1 are called distributed discharge resistor. Whereas RE2 is called lump discharge resistor, RD2 is called lump damping resistor. Generally, this RE1, RD1, etc., they are all within the impulse generator, not in, outside. We cannot control them. What we can control is only this lump parameter, which is outside the generator, so that we can disconnect this resistance, connect a new one. Like that, we can use different values of resistance and adjust the time constant. So that's why this right bottom side is written as wave shaping section. So these are the three sections which has been already explained. But now we have to put forward an equivalent circuit. So now here it is shown, that is the circuit that comes from the previous one. But now when it fires, that is the gap fires, then what happens? 4 CS, they come in series. That means these 4 capacitances come in series, and then 2 RD1, they come in series also. So here you can see CS1, 2RD1. This is stage 1. Stage 1 means here, the leftmost block. Then CS2, 2RD1, stage 2. So you see CS2, 2RD1, stage 2. Then CS3, 2RD1, stage 3. So CS3, 2RD1, stage 3, and CS4, 2RD1, stage 4. So each rectangle is actually just one block or one stage. So finally we have 4 CS and 4 2RD1 in series. Then comes S4. Then this is my S4. And then 4 RE1. 4 RE1, they are in parallel with RE2, because RE2 is connected to R. This is the common point. And 4 RE1 is connected to R. This is the common point. So 4 RE1 comes in parallel with RE2, and then you have RD2 and CB. And the output is taken across CB. That is, the impulse output is taken across CB. So this is the equivalent for CS in parallel, in series. So they become CS by N, where N is a generalized number. Then 2RD1 into N, N is the number of stage. So 2NRD1, then SN, that means the gap at the nth stage. Then NRE1, but RE2, RD2 and CB, there is no N. They are the single values. So now we just, for simplification, we can put 2NRD1 in series with RD2 because RE values are much higher compared to RD. This is the operational part. Now I will give you a problem. How we solve this problem. Design an 8-stage impulse generator to generate 1400 kV with voltage efficiency of 96%. The energy stored in the impulse generator is 16 kilojoule and the input DC voltage is 175 kV. So now you have all the parameters. So how do we use it? This is like the equivalent circuit here. Here you see the equivalent circuit. Just look at only the two capacitors. If we forget about the resistance, they are connected in this form, right? Where this capacitor is charged with a certain voltage. So this is that combination, and if you do that, then V2 by V1, this becomes our voltage efficiency. This is like a potential divider, and so we write this equation. C equivalent is nothing but the combined or the equivalent resistance of the source capacitances or the stage capacitances. In this case, we have 8-stage impulse generator. So the value of N, that is the number of stage, is 8. And this is given as 96%. So we can write that this ratio is 90 or 0.96. Fine. Then for the 8 stages, there will be 8-stage capacitors. That means this capacitors here, there will be 8 such capacitors. Therefore, and the charging voltage is 175 kV. So half CV square into 8. There are 8 capacitors. They are all charged up to 175 kV is equal to 16 kilojoule. So what do we get? CS, that means the individual stage capacitance is 0.1306 microfarad. But they are all in series, so the equivalent capacitance is CS by N. So N is 8, so C equivalent is CS by 8. It is 16.32 nanofarad. Then we put this ratio of 9.96, we find CB as 0.68 nanofarad. So from here we can get the values of CS and CB, what we have to give. But we have to also get the required wave front time and wave tail time. So wave front time is typically, I have already shown that when this capacitance, that means earlier I have shown you here. Here. This is the circuit which I showed you, that this stage capacitor charges the load capacitor. Now here it is CS by 8, that is the C equivalent. Then we have RT and we have CB. Now, by the way, we are not going through the exact transform circuit. Of course, we can do that, but we are solving it through this approximate equivalent circuit. When this happens, that C equivalent, this capacitor charges CB over a resistance R, then we can say, see, this is the equation of the charging voltage. That means V, which is the voltage across CB, will be V, which is the voltage or the DC voltage appearing across CS, then 1 minus e to the power minus T by lambda, where lambda is the time constant. Now, how do we find it? We have to get the required wave front time. So, as I have already told, wave front time is calculated from T90 and T30. That means 90% of the peak value and 30% of the peak value. So, how do we get it? So, T30 is, you see, V by V becomes 0.3. So, you can calculate from here. This becomes particularly this expression. If V is 0.3 capital V. So T30, that means here e to the power minus T30 by lambda, you can write this expression. Then you say V by small v by capital V is 0.9 and this e to the power minus T90 by lambda. So T90 becomes this So front time is T90 minus T30 by 0.9 minus 0.3, which I have explained last class, that similar triangle concept. So now put it here. So you get that front time is 3.243 into lambda. What is the lambda? Lambda is, of course, you know. So here you can see that lambda is RC, and C is here the series combination of equivalent capacitance and the load capacitance. So 1.2 microsecond, which is the front time, is equal to 3.243 lambda. So 3.243 here on the left side into R into C, and this R is RD. So since already you have calculated C equivalent and load condenser, so we put the values, we get RD as 566.8 ohm. Then we do the tell time calculation, and this is done using the discharge characteristics of RC circuit. And in the discharge circuit, again, let me show you the previous one, where it is here. This is how it is being discharged. So CS and CP in parallel, they discharge through RD and RE. So we take the same approximate circuit, and in the discharge circuit, the output voltage is always given by this. So here V is the peak value, and we are going from peak value to the 50% of the peak value, because that is how it is defined, that with tell time. So we say this is T50, and V by small v by capital V is 0.5. So we get that T50 is 0.693 lambda. And lambda is definitely parallel combination of C multiplied by series combination RC. But this T50, this is not the tell time, because this V is equal to capital V to the power minus T by lambda. This T is always calculated from the peak value. And peak value occurs at 1.2 microsecond. But 50 microsecond tell time, that is always computed from the virtual zero. So what we do? So we take 50 microsecond minus the wavefront time. That becomes the time from the peak of the wave. So we put that as the T50, that is from the peak, not from the virtual zero. Give is equal to 0.693 into lambda, and lambda is the R into C, and that comes from the approximate equivalent circuit. And we get RE plus RT is equal to 4142 ohm. So RE is 3575 ohm. So you can see RD is 566 ohm, RE is 3575 ohm. So it is 7 times greater than RD. So this is how a computation can be done. If you need a very rigorous computation, then of course we will have to go for the Laplace transform circuit and get that equation. And of course we will have to solve a far more complicated equation. But that we are not doing. We are happy with this computation using the approximate equivalent circuit. And for your course, that should be enough. Now, I have already told you that impulse generator has to be triggered. If there are multiple sphere gaps in an impulse generator, it is always required that the first stage breaks down at the desired voltage and in the desired instant, and there should be breakdown of the other gaps automatically. How do we ensure it? One thing already I have said, that there has to be a graded value of the sphere gaps. The first stage gap will have the minimum value, then gradually it will increase, and the last stage will have the highest value. But then, how do I trigger the first stage at the desired instant and the desired voltage? Well, we do it in this way, that this is called a triggertron gap. So first stage gap is actually called a 3 electrode gap. So we have the one electrode or the one sphere which is connected to the high voltage. We have the other sphere which is connected to the earth. That means